Welcome, everybody, to the Wellness Founders Podcast, where we explore the business of wellness and the people creating the future of well-being. I got my buddy here, Patrick Bollenbach. Good to see you, Patrick. I'm excited to have this convo today. I wanted to run through just a quick background so people know who they're dealing with. This handsome, dashing young man standing for a podcast. We gotta love it. Got to be a standing desk, all wellness approved, ergonomic approved. And Pat, you've been in the SaaS space for some time. So you've built some profitable SaaS businesses. Some of them have been recipe kits. Some of them have been waitlists for Shopify. Some of them have been blog comments for Shopify, book clubs as a service. You've kind of had a nice serial run here with SaaS platforms. And I think what was most interesting about your background and when we first connected was you building out this RunClubs.ca, this directory
Yeah.
for run clubs across Canada, like an easy way for runners to find those. And you had this as kind of a tiny side project that has gained some search traffic and has been featured in Reddit by different users. And it seems like it's been an interesting journey so far. And I'm just curious, like, to start everything today, how do you think your experience building in the SaaS space has really impacted like where you're going with wellness businesses, with RunClubs.ca, with anything that you're
Yeah.
interested in now?
Amazing. Well, first of all, thanks so much for having me on. It's great seeing you, and I'm excited for this. Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting foray. A lot of my former businesses are all B2B SaaS products. So they're direct selling to businesses with a subscription up front. Meanwhile, the Run Clubs website it's a bit more of a B2C model. So I'm trying to attract as much traffic as possible and then working on the steps to monetize that. So it's quite a bit of a departure from my other businesses, which was, day one profitability, first user, dollars in the door. This is, it's a bit of a backwards process to hopefully get to the same end result.
Tell me a little bit about that difference for you, because I've been in B2B, I've been in B2C, and there are a lot of nuances in that. And there's also like sometimes where you're doing B2B to get to B2C. There's all these different models. Like, what are you seeing as like the main differences, and then what are the things that are similar?
Yeah. So, I mean, with B2B, especially in my niches, which is in particular the Shopify app niche, a lot of the marketing and initial traffic generation has been sort of handled by Shopify. They've been able to send me leads, send me customers from day one. And meanwhile, with the Run Clubs project, I've had to sort of build that base from nothing on my own. So the first example of that was starting by launching on Reddit and just getting those first 10, 100 users, etc., and working up from there. So I find it's a really interesting problem. I have friends in the B2C SaaS space, and it's a similar thing where it's like it's volume over not necessarily quality, but volume over nicheness, I guess. And so yeah, in the B2B world, you just need a couple hundred people paying you $10 and your bills are paid. But when it comes to the B2C space, that turns into you needing 10,000 people giving you a couple dollars a month to equal the same amount of revenue. And I think in particular with the Run Clubs, it's really interesting just because there isn't a clear path to monetization. There isn't a subscription. It's a directory. It's a free informational directory.
Nice. So I've got a few questions on that I want to come back to, and I'm writing them down as you go. But I love this perspective that you're already giving, because there's so much we could go into detail wise. You've had a few different companies that I would almost say are either ancillarily in the wellness space or somewhat associated with that. I'd probably say Recipe Kit might be one of those, just
Yeah.
because nutrition and making food, there's a lot of consciousness around wellness for people who are probably interested in that. I'd say Cuento.app with the books as a service might fit into that, because people who are into wellness are probably also into personal development, reading. And then you've got this RunClubs.ca. Do you When you're looking at niches to go into, like, especially with these ones, was it always for you like a personal interest in wellness, or you solving your own problems, or how did you come up with these ideas?
Yeah. So Recipe Kit, I think on its own is, tangentially related, but I think of that as sort of a complete separate entity that has just turned into, me getting more into nutrition and learning about all of these food brands and whatnot. For Run Clubs, and then, like you said, the new one, Cuento, it was born out of pure self-interest. Run Clubs was born out of me moving here to Vancouver after years of travel and wanting to find a community. And the easiest way for me to do that is build the community myself. So it was really a solution to the problem that I found once I moved here, which was, how do I find that community?
Yeah.
And similarly, the Cuento app, the book club app that I'm in the process of launching is, hey, I'm really into reading Tim Ferriss or sci-fi books, and how do I find other people in my community that are reading those same sorts of books? So I think the core component here, though, is we're craving community as a whole, as humanity right now. So my role as a programmer, as a developer, as a product guy is, how can I build the tools and websites that help connect those people?
And that seems like it's probably like your best, or would you say that's your strongest skill set is on the product side, or what's your background there?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I've always been a relatively weak developer. That's never been my strong suit.
Well,
But
you don't have to be a strong one anymore, right? With all the AI.
exactly. Exactly. So, I really think my superpower now is identifying gaps in communities, and I think in many cases I'm the perfect consumer for many of these apps. I'm an avid runner, a reader. I'm looking to meet new friends in a new city. I'm looking to read more books with friends. So, so I think it's the perfect combination of those things. But certainly my superpower right now is the product side rather than the tech side, like it was, 10 years ago.
Before that, I'm curious of like the timeline of these other businesses. So you said that Cuento app is being launched now. You had Recipe Kit, you had Wait.li, you had Better Blog Comments. What was kind of the timeline of you building these businesses, and how long did each of these businesses take to become profitable? Are they all just running on their own now? The ones that you're not in the day to day with, what are you spending most of your time on? Maybe you can kind of break down the timeline of your entrepreneurial journey
Yeah.
up to this point.
Yeah. So around 2014, I graduated from a super short computer programming diploma here in Canada and immediately moved abroad and was living in Bali and immediately started trying to create products.
You look like a
We were
baller.
living
You look like a baller guy.
So living in, Dojo and Hacker House and just building products every day, launching on Product Hunt, failing miserably with all of them. But during that time, freelancing and building products for other people, building Shopify stores for other people. So around 2017, I launched Wait.li, which was the first Shopify app, a waiting list app for pre-launching products. And again, from day one, I was lucky enough that Shopify featured it on the homepage. So from day one, there was already 100, 150 users of the app, which was incredibly lucky timing, market timing. But what that means is it was profitable within, a couple hours of launch.
Wow.
And from there, 2020 is when I launched Recipe Kit. Similar story. It was perfectly timed with COVID. Everybody getting forced to go home and cook food. And Recipe Kit was launched May 2020, and similarly was able to take advantage of the effectively free Shopify marketing and get customers from day one. And moving from that, the blog comment app was just released last year, and it was built off of the back of using those customer insights I got from Recipe Kit.
Hmm.
People were begging for a more forum discussion community software for Shopify. So I built it. And yeah, I mean, so that's the Shopify side of the business. Outside of that, I've been running variations of directories and pseudo community sites for years as well. I built a concert scraping website for my hometown, Kitchener, in Ontario, and it basically just scrapes the internet, finding concerts, all of the concerts in our city, and just like Run Clubs, just makes it a super easy, like, one-page interface to look at all of the concerts. And that's still running. It still gets 150, 200 views a day of people using it as their core source for finding concerts.
Awesome. And you basically took all of that experience and knowledge and now are putting that into RunClubs.ca, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
I also, just as a side note, I've got an idea for a directory that now I need to talk to you about, because I've had this idea for years and I don't have a product person, so it feels like you're
There we
probably the
go.
guy to ask. But I don't want to say it live on the podcast so someone doesn't steal it. Although that's probably a little generous to think that someone would be listening to this that would steal it. But okay, so I'm interested in a lot of things. My brain is like, go in this direction, go in this direction, go in this direction. But the first thing I want to know is, what were the lessons that you had over the course of, that decade where you had failed products and, things didn't work out, you had a few successes. What are the things that seem to be like the distillable lessons across all these that now you're applying to Run Clubs CA?
Yeah. Great question. I think those first 4 to 5 years, I was very much so living in a bubble. I was living in the digital nomad bubble of the indie hacker bubble, building products for other developers, building products for other nomads, which um, now is a different market. But at the time, we were all very cheap. We didn't want to pay for products. We didn't want to go down that road. So I was very much in that bubble of thinking, oh, all I need to do is build a product that all of these 30 people at Dojo are going to use, and that's how I make it. That's how I make my $1 million. And I think the biggest lesson I've learned from like 2017, 2018 onwards, um, especially for my circumstance, I sort of tried to leave that bubble as best as I could. I stopped hanging around the co-working spaces in different cities. I stopped hanging around the digital nomad crew, and I really just tried to gain as much life experience as possible in as many different circles as possible. So I would start going to conferences for industries that I had no knowledge or experience in, and started going to cities that my other friends weren't going to, that other nomads weren't going to. And yeah, just trying to expand that bubble. And I think that's probably been the largest lesson that has at least opened my eyes from a product perspective to building products that are better used by still niche audiences, but niche audiences that I think are willing to pay, maybe, or have a larger demographic than the, say, 10,000 digital nomads that were around the world in
Yeah.
2016.
So if I'm looking at your body of work entrepreneurially and I'm trying to pinpoint like your superpower or your key leverage, which seems to be focus on product, it seems to be acquisition of users and traffic. Um, so break that down for me. When you're evaluating an opportunity for yourself or for someone else and you're like viability test, how is it that you took RunClubs.ca through your own due
Yeah,
diligence in your mind or on paper to say this is going to be worth putting some time and energy into?
absolutely. It's a topic I bring up quite a bit with my other software friends who are trying to get into building a product, building a SaaS, building a website for the first time. I think my business credibility and my success so far has just been purely from niching down, as not as small as possible, but niching down maybe an extra layer than what other people getting started in product will go towards. So with Run Clubs in particular, sticking to Canada was honestly that niche. There's a very real world in the near future where I expand it to the States and international. But sticking with Canada was intentional. I got the good domain name, and as a Canadian, it just made a lot more sense for me to have that credibility to reach out to people, to be able to post on forum threads or on Reddit or in Facebook groups saying, "Hey, I live in Vancouver and I built this for other Vancouverites," is such a I feel like it's such a higher level play than me randomly spamming the LA subreddit saying, "Hey, here's the Run Clubs list." So I really think niching down has been my superpower. Identifying, okay, there's a certain market, but how do we bring that down 2 or 3 steps nicher to people that are willing to pay in the Shopify world with Recipe Kit and whatnot, or a niche enough industry where people are discussing this stuff on a day-to-day basis. And I think runners in Canada is a great example of that niche.
But was there a metric that you looked at where, okay, so you're like, okay, run clubs. You're like run clubs in North America, run clubs in Canada. Like you're going down that list, and I don't know if that's exactly how it happened, but is there some metric that you're looking at each layer to say, okay, this is where I stop? Or because theoretically you could have done Western Canada, or like that
Yeah.
probably would have been weird, but you could have just done Vancouver, for instance, because I'm sure
Yeah.
there's a lot of runners there. Why did you stop at Canada? And was there
Yeah.
any data that said to do that?
I mean, when I started it, it was Vancouver only.
Okay.
Honestly, the thing that made me want to expand it Canada wide was because I got the domain name of
Yeah.
RunClubs.ca, which isn't as strong as the .com equivalent, but in Canada, we still trust that .ca. So once I launched Run Clubs on the Vancouver subreddit, it blew up. I got a couple hundred comments. Everybody was loving it. Thousands of views. Suddenly, consistently users showing up every single day. And once I had that validation, I just knew, coming from our world of marketing, of product, of building products like this and entrepreneurship, I obviously just took that as a great sign that, okay, build in Toronto next, the largest city in Canada, and then let's start tackling all of the major cities in Canada. And now I think I've got 12 or 13 different cities in Canada. And like I said, in the near future, hopefully going down to the States and worldwide.
And congrats on that, man. That's really great. You've mentioned a couple different strategies. Maybe you call them tactics. I don't know if they fit under strategy or tactic, but utilizing Reddit, which is a very interesting technique because you're going into these sub communities, you're finding people that are active, you're finding people that are doing this product hunt you mentioned. But give me an indication of like what's the strategy, and then what are the tactics around building something like this if you were to redo it from start, or just deconstruct how you did it and how you expanded these cities and how long that took, and maybe you could just walk
Yeah.
us through that process.
Yeah. So I mean, as I mentioned before, I think the core strategy honestly was Reddit for me for Run Clubs. I knew I'm active in the Vancouver subreddit, in my hometown subreddit, Kitchener, back home. And in particular, that subreddit is maybe 30,000 users, and people are always asking questions, and it's a very active community. And there's been multiple posts of people saying, "Hey, I want to start running. How do I find friends to run with?" And people will send over Instagram links and whatnot. So I do really think I talk to people who are selling B2B SaaS products or something, and their strategy is Reddit. But that Reddit strategy is more spamming Reddit across hundreds of subreddits with your product link name and just hoping it starts showing up higher in Google or whatnot. And I think my approach is, say in the cold emailing world, you could like spray and pray 400,000 emails in a week and just hope that somebody clicks on your link and buys your product. Or you take the detailed route where you truly write out an email for Jordan saying, "Hey, I love your podcast. I'd love to advertise my product or something." And I think that's the approach that I preferred to take with Reddit, and I think it's succeeded really well. And I've been able to replicate it, effectively relaunching run clubs in every major Canadian city to great success. There hasn't been any pushback. It doesn't feel like a sales pitch either, because
Yeah.
the website is free. There's no big crazy Google ads or anything. It's just free knowledge, free data for the internet to use, and I think people love that.
Yeah. I think that speaks to like a greater shift in marketing and where the world's going anyway, is like people have like such fatigue of pitching and people coming into environments where it's purely transactional, and because of AI it makes it so much easier to be transactional, that I think there's
Yeah.
this other side of it, that if you're just a few percentage more give a shit and
Yeah.
like actually write something out and actually like really manually do it, or you just actually care about the message that you're sending out, it really can help you stand out. And if there's not anything tied to the pitch, it's a free offer, it's providing value, it makes it so that it's pretty much a no-brainer. So let's break this down. So you go into Reddit. If I'm going into Reddit, it sounds like you were already active in this particular subreddit, but maybe for someone who is starting something, wanting to use Reddit as a strategy for in a similar way that you're doing it, it's like is the top level to find certain communities, and this may depend, but certain geographies. And for something like this, like it's a directory, it obviously makes sense to do it on a geography basis. But you go into the geography of the subreddit, and then you're searching keywords for running, or what's break down like how you launch in a new city.
Yeah. So I think timing has been particularly fortuitous right now. I launched Run Clubs last year, mid last year. Actually, I think it was about a year ago, almost to date, that I moved to Vancouver,
Nice.
and within a couple weeks built the website. But in this past year, run clubs have reached an all-time high in popularity, and they're everywhere. So I've been able to skip, I think, a little bit of the market research that maybe somebody in a different niche has been forced to go through, because it's almost assumed at this point that any major city has a run club or multiple run clubs and people interested in that. So at the moment, it's been quite easy for me to. I just launched a bunch of new run clubs for Calgary, Alberta. So one of the, I don't know, top 6 population cities in Canada, and I have the confidence, and especially now seeing the amount of run clubs, I think there's 26 run clubs that I've found for that city. I have the confidence going into that subreddit, knowing that people are already probably going to some of these run clubs, knowing that there's a large enough population, there's 700,000 people that live there, and knowing it's an active city, I have that confidence to be able to walk into that post and yeah, effectively not just copy and paste in what I've put for other cities, but add some touch of saying, hey, I visited Calgary last year and I went for a run in one of these run clubs, and just try and like hyper personalize it as much as possible. But again, we've got the opportunity here in Canada, at least for this sort of pre-scale up stage, to do this in this sort of test bed. And I think the real test will be, how does launching worldwide, how does launching to the US perform? Because we've only got 34 million people in Canada. And so yeah, I think it's a really cool test bed to launch products in Canada first, and then try other markets afterwards.
One of the questions I had about the Reddit was, so you've got this strategy of going in, hyper personalizing, being very specific. Is there a cadence that you have where you're just like, I'm going to do this block of time to go into Reddit every day and just leave X amount of comments, or how do you do that?
So I haven't had to go in on a consistent basis. The strategy has more or less been, I'm launching a new city page, so the Calgary page. And once I have a certain amount of run clubs, usually my goal is 25 to 30 for a city. And at that point, I will go into Reddit and make one big post onto the r/Calgary, the main city subreddit. And I think in particular, having that sort of velocity of number of run clubs helps, because if I was to go and launch in with 4 run clubs,
Yeah.
it's a very unimpressive number. And so, yeah, having something like 20 to 30 run clubs, it gives me confidence to launch into these subreddits. But I haven't done much work in terms of individual comments. These are just
Okay, so they're
posts
posts.
in the
Yeah.
city. Yeah.
Got it.
I think there's certainly a strategy there if I wanted to go down the path of certain monetization, then a more active, like keeping an eye on all of the people asking for run clubs in across the Canadian subreddits. But for now, I haven't gone down that road.
So tell me about the process of a page being created and you backfilling the data. Are you talking with these run clubs and like how are you verifying information? Like what's step 0 to 1 with all of
Yeah.
that to launch the page?
Yeah. So, I mean, you run a run club yourself, and I think we've spoken about this where a lot of run clubs right now, they exist only on Instagram. That's their core source of
Yep.
getting information out there. That's where they post their schedule and post all of their communication with their members. And personally, I think it's a very inefficient form of communication. I'm not trying to be on Instagram checking stories every day, trying to find where the run club is.
We
So
got Luma. We got Luma too. And we got
there
an
we
email.
go.
And we got
There
email.
we go. But most run clubs haven't evolved to that. They started as 10 people, 10 friends, and now they've turned into 100 people in their city. And that's totally fair. But from a business perspective, you know as well as I, getting those emails, getting an email list to be able to communicate with people is of vital importance. Um, so yeah, to get back to your question, oh my gosh, I completely forget your question. I'm so sorry.
It's all good. It was about um so we were talking about Reddit, how many times a day you were going into it, and then the process of the page and
Right. And
how you
backfilling
validate
data.
the yeah.
Yeah.
So you contacted them on Instagram or you're filling it out yourself or
Yeah. Okay. So typically to start, I have a VA on my team, and I'll effectively ask him to go through Instagram and search Calgary run clubs. And off the bat, that'll get us, again, depending on the city, 10 to 20 run clubs. And because a lot of that data, their schedule data, lives on Instagram, it takes him maybe 45 seconds, 30 to 45 seconds to check out a run club, view their bio, check out that they meet on Tuesdays at 7 p.m. at a local brewery, and then just insert that into the website. So that's our core source of input at the moment. We do have a like submission form that a lot more people have been using, submitting their own run clubs in different cities, and that's been great from a user generated content side of things. But there is still that manual process right now of manually checking their Instagram, ensuring that we get the right location data and timing, and editing what we have or updating that. Um, I am trying to scrape things with AI at the moment, but the validity of that data, it means I want my
stuff.
VA to go through that at the end of the day anyways.
Yeah. I'm just curious on the side of like Reddit. Have you used Quora at all for any of this as well? Or is that
N- no, I
not on the
haven't. I haven't even considered that.
yeah, because it seems like that could be another avenue for this type of work. Like Reddit and Quora kind of go hand in hand around, user generated communities that are asking questions about certain things. We used to, when I used to be in PR, we created this was back in like 2017, but we had created a bunch of Reddit and Quora processes for for us, for our clients to be checking for certain questions, and we'd answer them with some of their articles or, different stuff. And
Okay.
it was a good way to try to get media placements and get upvotes and stuff because it works very similar that people upvote on Quora, and just got me thinking about like all the
Interesting.
different things you could do with these strategies. And it kind of brings back like how you relate community to wellness, because I feel like that's really at the core of this is
Yeah.
wellness is becoming like a community sport where people are not wanting to do wellness alone, and they're combining their social life with their with their wellness life. And I don't even pretty much any workout I do now is with people. Like I go to group
Yeah.
workout classes, I play basketball, I do run club, boxing, everything is with other people. And there's something about that community aspect that with fitness it just really works. So
Absolutely.
any thoughts on that trend, or like how that's impacted your overall vision of what this becomes?
Yeah. I mean, I think as I said, I think we're certainly in this hype phase for wellness communities and for run clubs and for sauna sessions and all of this. And I think I mean, obviously it's a great opportunity for businesses to get involved in, and obviously a lot of them are making steps in this direction. I think my biggest concern and or hesitation with all of this in regards to like how I run my business and how I think of run clubs is how long will this last?
Yeah.
In particular, say run clubs. At least here in Vancouver, we have 40, 50 different run clubs. The run clubs are almost terrorizing the city. Every time you're out on the sidewalk, there's a group of 100 people running by you. And I'm a runner. I go to run clubs and it's overwhelming to me. Like I'm just trying to go for a casual walk with a friend and we just get passed by people with boom boxes. Yeah, just terrorizing the streets. So it worries me from that perspective that I think society a little bit is pushing back on run clubs in particular. And I'm starting to see a little bit of maybe diminishing returns when it comes to the public perception of run
Yeah.
clubs. So from a business perspective, I'm not too sure how to handle that. If my livelihood was dependent on it, I'd probably be a little bit more scared about it. But I still think run clubs in particular will always be there. They're always going to fill this gap in the community space. Um, I do think that when it comes to other activities, like we've got a big sauna business community here where everybody's going to the sauna, everybody's cold plunging. And in a similar sense, I do think that that sort of hype train is starting to go down. I'm friends with quite a few sauna owners, and they're seeing much lower usage from like last year at the same time.
Mm.
And yeah, so I think that in general, it does slightly concern me from the pure business perspective.
Yeah, and that's an interesting thought because it makes you wonder like what we look back on this time and see. And I'm definitely more bullish and optimistic, but there's also
Yeah,
can see all these points of where the public perception or the societal perception or the disruption can be an issue. And then that kind of segues into the monetization side for you and like the commitment on the business side for you. And you said that you were having some concerns or doubts about, for instance, getting this domain, because it's going to be an investment. Tell me more about the business side of this. Like, what is the potential you are seeing? We've talked a little bit about concerns, but like, what is the other side? What are the potentials that you're seeing? And maybe if you can back that up with numbers around the traffic that you're getting and anything that you're
yeah,
seeing that's optimistic.
absolutely. Yeah. So, I mean, just to get straight into some sort of numbers, the website is it's blowing up on Reddit. It's got incredible SEO, so Google organic search results are killing it. On a daily basis, I get somewhere around 500 organic users hopping onto the site, which again, this is a niche website in Canada. nobody's going to this internationally. So in the grand scheme, maybe not the biggest numbers you've seen, but assuming that all of these people are runners within this small space of Vancouver, for example, it gives me confidence. So yeah, I mean, over the past couple months, past 12 months, about 160,000 views and growing on a daily basis. People are posting about it on Reddit. More people are sending it to friends. So there's nothing but confidence I have there from a organic sort of growth approach. When it comes to monetization and maybe the future of it, I, despite my earlier hesitations, I am bullish on the concept, and I'm bullish on my opportunity here as this tech product runner to build the right solution, whatever that might be. I think where my mind leads with that, and in talking to Run Club leaders here in Vancouver and back in Toronto, is the current iteration of RunClubs.ca. It might not look. This might just be a small part of what it turns into in the future as run clubs evolve and as run clubs turn into businesses themselves. They're going to need new tools for organization, for monetization themselves. And I think run clubs and other sites in similar regards are in the perfect position to help these run clubs, to help these wellness communities with their avenues into business.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of Sweat Pals. If you know Sweat Pals.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
it's like
think you sent that to me.
yeah, they're doing something cool where it's essentially an event platform built for social fitness, social wellness.
Right.
So they're taking like the Eventbrite strategy, but making it super custom to this niche. And yeah, that's interesting. I'm wondering what kind of tools you think can be built for run clubs. Like, what do you have in mind? Anything come top of mind?
I mean, I think the biggest thing that I've been hearing from run club owners here in Vancouver has been that lack of true organization and communication. There's
You
a
want to get
split
them
of
off of Instagram. That's all this is.
more or less. It's this is a long play so that I can uninstall Instagram finally. Um, but yeah, I mean, there's a big, especially those run clubs that are trying to turn it into a business, into a money making endeavor for the founders. A lot of them are struggling with that, the fact that they don't have any real contact information for these customers, for these runners,
Yeah.
and they have no good communication channel. Instagram has their new channel messaging system, but as far as I've heard, it's not extremely effective. Um,
I
but
got some ideas.
yeah,
Yeah, cause for us it's like, you know, one is the event hosting. So like where is there a place where we can get an RSVP, collect the data, and then actually segment the people and actually communicate with them. And we end up doing that across a couple different tools now. One is Instagram, one is Luma, the event platform, another is Beehive, which is the newsletter platform. And there's stuff about Beehive, like if you could create kind of a marketplace system where sponsors could sponsor run clubs on a platform and do
yeah,
like a pay-per-click version of that, similar to how Beehive's doing it, but you also get emailing, you also get SMS, you also get the
yeah.
RSVP system and notifications. Maybe you even have a Shopify on there where they can buy merch directly, like all that stuff in like one place. That
Yeah.
that would be super cool.
I think it's an interesting point you bring up, the like sponsorship, because that's something I've been wanting to do, at least locally here, is okay, I have all of the data to connect the run club owners and hopefully find, say, cafes, venues, bars,
Yep.
running stores, and brands. And what if I can be that connecting piece? So I've always been curious with the run club that you guys have in Medellin, how you guys go down that line of finding those sponsorships, and what does that communication look like to talk to a restaurant or a cafe and say, hey, we can bring you 300 runners on a Saturday morning. What does the collaboration look like for that?
Yeah, I would say ours is a little bit tougher because in Latin America culture, well, there's a couple things. One is we do ours on Sunday, and Sunday typically is a day of rest for most people here. And the other difficulty is that it actually hasn't been a benefit for us to bring 200 or 300 people to a location because most places don't have the capacity or service capability, and you're doing it on a day when most people have the day off. So it actually creates more stress and more need for um that they gotta add more staff and do more stuff. And it most venues that we worked with, we've exhausted their resources to be able to host us just because of how many people we have. And it's not always that our community is a massive revenue generator. They'll come and maybe someone will just get a coffee, or they'll come and get nothing and just hang out.
Right.
And so that's been a more difficult part. Like I've gone down the route of like, oh, we need to just create our own real estate to be able to support this, or purchase a
Yeah.
restaurant or something like that, because of how difficult it's been to navigate venue sponsorship. Now, there's also product sponsorship, but again, the culture here is not one that um, brands are a little bit, from my observation, brands are a bit more transactional in nature, and they see kind of like they don't see the long term. And part of this is articulation of value for sure, but part of it's that they're not seeing as much the long term vision of being associated, or they're not as equipped to be able to take advantage of being in front of this many people. So that's really where I'm trying to help our strategy is build out like a sponsor awareness, sponsor educational program where we can get sponsors to pay us to bring their product, and then we actually have kind of a customer success uh, team, or ability to have like a call with them, and be like, hey,
Yeah.
here's how you're gonna get the most out of this, because we've had some brands come and give away stuff at the beginning of runs, and they maybe do like an exchange for a follow on Instagram or whatever, but they're not seeing they're looking at it more transactional, not like long term. So that's actually a process we're in right now, is revamping our sponsorship programs and just getting really clear on, I think content's the most valuable thing that we have, because we have creators and we have content every week. So to be able to put that front and center and say, hey, you're going to pay someone to create content for you. Why don't you do it where there's an activation, and you can feature our community where there's going to be natural and organic photos and or interactions with your brand. And so that's really where I think we're going to go with it.
Yeah. I I think we've spoken about this before, but I love that, and you mentioned it before. I love the idea of turning that whether into a tech product that makes that way easier, sure, but even just as a
Yeah.
service-based agency to be that connecting piece and to handle all of that hassle is
Yeah.
I
And
think
that's,
it's a
that's
great
really,
business idea.
that's really what our communities are becoming. It's becoming a content agency, because the events themselves are just uh content opportunities, like that's the real value that's being driven on all sides, because people come because they see what they're missing from the content that we create, and they either have the FOMO or they get excited about being in a picture or whatever it might be, and then the sponsors see the value in, oh, we're going to get really good content out of this. So that's where I think most of these communities are best off of building a monetization path.
Yeah, interesting. Just one more question on that note. I
Reverse
we
podcast.
spoke. Yeah, exactly. I mean, again, I think we've touched on this before, but I think it'd be so fascinating to have a sort of playbook, whether that's sold to other communities or given as a free resource to what is the pathway to me starting a run club with 5 of my friends to turning this into something that
Business.
makes some money on the side and
Yeah.
or turns into a full business. And I think that's where people like you and myself, maybe myself from the tech side of things, but that's where people like you and I in our positions right now can really, really shine.
Yeah, man. I would agree with that. There's a few people already doing a really good job at this on a broader level around community. I'm in a program with this woman named Lucy who did the coffee and chill in the US. And she has a community mastery program that I'm taking right now. And that's where I'm getting a lot of the insights to be able to apply to the Run Club and to be able to um, monetize more efficiently, to have better pitch to the sponsors, to kind of work on our messaging because it's a side business for all three of us that are involved. And you have to find ways to be more effective with the limited time that you have. So and also we built it out of our heart. We didn't, similar to you. It's like if I was reliant on this to be a revenue generator, it wouldn't be what it is. It wouldn't have the love and the passion in it that makes it probably as popular and interesting to people. Whereas if I needed it to make money, I think there'd be an energy behind it that doesn't necessarily serve it. So I like in both of our stories, and most of the people that I talk to on this podcast, they built their thing out of a need for it themselves and out of their heart, not from needing money for it, at least from the community side. And I think there's a
Yeah,
really different reaction you get from people when that energetically, that's how you're coming at it.
for sure. For sure. I love that.
So, last question here, man, and we'll get you out of here is, what's Patrick's legacy in the wellness industry? What's the movement that you're going to be known for creating?
I think the point I keep landing on when I think about something like that is I just want to bring people together, and whether it's run clubs or another project, I just want to make it easier for people to find their people. And I think obviously that's running book clubs right now, but I think that's truly the legacy, the core intent behind all of this is bringing people together, like building communities. And as expats, as travelers, as people that have moved cities and tried to meet friends in new cities, uh, I think I think it's a valiant goal, and I think the world needs that more than ever. I think we need people connecting other people, and I'd love for that to become my sort of North Star.
And we need good product designers to do that. So I think that's going to be where your legacy stands, is someone who knew how to combine um, this view of product and how important on the product design side it is to get users and to get traffic and to get people in a way that's not sleazy, in a way that's not built
Yeah,
off clickbait or spam. It's like real genuine community building. So I really appreciate having you on, man. Thanks so much for spending the time with us, sharing your lessons. Looking forward to hearing this when it comes out.
yeah. Thank you so much, Jordan.